Hello guys, today the question is Battleforge or Nimble good versus Ancient Undead? And this is a discussion which one is specifically better, right? So normally you want to have either Nimble, which gives you 40% damage reduction to hit points on your bros, or you want Battleforge, which reduces the damage that your armor takes normally up to 30%, right? So roughly, let's say 30% damage reduction to your armor and you wear a lot of heavy armor. So what does that mean? You take less hit point damage until your armor is gone. Okay, so I have made videos about Battleforge and Nimble by itself and what I tend to like more. In general, I like to have Battleforge more. But this time I want to be a little bit more nuanced. And we will go into Ancient Dead. And yeah, let's see what is better, Nimble or Battleforged versus specifically this faction. I think Ancient Auxiliaries are the weakest one. They have pretty crap armor. Yeah, sometimes they have shields, sometimes they don't. They have 45 hit points, so they have fearsome. So, and by the way, like all of the Ancient Undead, they have fearsome, at least the normal Legionaries. And so that speaks against Nimble, basically. Because if you have Nimble, you are likely to take 1 hit point damage, even from like the weaker weapons. So you actually get fearsome checked quite a lot versus Ancient Undead. If you have a lot of armor with Battleforge, a lot of the times you do not take even 1 hit point damage. So you can delay the fearsome attacks from the Ancient Undead by quite a while. In general, this faction is not too scary, because normally there's a tactic where you just go back 2 tiles and then you just have 2 turns of smashing them before they go. So this faction in general is not that strong, but of course in Black Monolith and Library you fight a lot of them. So let's go on. The Ancient Legionary is a little bit stronger. They have Battleforge, Shield Expert, Steel Brow, and they have Fearsome as well. So they have low hit points. That means they get countered by stuff that has high armor pen. So Duelist are excellence versus them. Also big two-handers. Just smash them quite well. Biggest problem of them is of course the shield wall. Can be stunned, disarmed, rooted, shield bashed, and set on fire, apparently. Interesting. Yeah, all of them have resistance to piercing attacks, so they take less damage from crows, from bows, crossbows, javelins, lance ignite, yeah, piercing attacks, so pikes, spears, a horrible dagger. All of these weapons are terrible versus these kind of opponents, especially because they have Battleforge, which further reduces the amount of damage these guys take. Again, Nimble is worse versus these guys because of the fearsome, probably. But in general, these guys, they're just annoying with the shield wall. The guys with the pike, the polearm, these ones are much more scary because they have polearm mastery and they have, I think they have backstabber too. Not sure. Doesn't say that they have backstabber. Might have changed. Yeah, but yeah, they have fearsome too. And that is quite scary. Like they have high damage attacks with the pike, additional accuracy from the pike, so they are likely gonna hit. And if they hit, they are likely gonna check you with fearsome if you are Nimble. So again, Battleforge tends to be better versus these kind of opponents as well. Although, again, if you have a company that has high damage output, you can just smash them, generally speaking. We have the Honor Guards. They can have shields. Sometimes they don't have shields. They have the two-handed weapons sometimes. So, of course, they have Battleforge, they have Fearsome too. These guys have reach advantage and some defense. Higher melee skills, so they are stronger offensive and defensive. They also have more armor, so harder to kill, but still 65 hit points. They die super fast to high armor penetrating weapons. Steel Bro, of course. Yeah, again, because of the fearsome, Nimble tends to be weaker here. Ancient Priest, they do the miasma. Yeah, they have the horror. Will cause separate resolve checks that can stun, basically. It's kind of like a ghost scream, but it stuns you. It ignores your resolve. It kind of lowers your resolve and stuff. Yeah, so pretty annoying, but doesn't do damage. The miasma is kind of like a pile of poison that does damage to hit points. And I think this one ignores Nimble, but I'm not 100% sure. So, yeah, these guys, that's why it's important to smash them fast, because if you stay for a long time in front of a shield wall in a miasma, you will take quite a lot of damage. And yeah, these guys don't attack you, but funny enough, they have fearsome as well. Okay, the scariest opponents in this category are Necrosavants. In my opinion, they are incredibly fast. They have really high skill and really high defense. So they are hard to kill. Also, they have 9 lives. Really hard to kill. And they have a shit ton of damage output. They have lifesteal and they are teleporting around, so they always jump on the weak targets. Okay, so they have cleaver that inflict bleeding, and bleeding is naturally a counter to Nimble, because the bleeding does not get reduced by Nimble, so you don't get a 40% damage reduction on your bleeding, which is pretty terrible. Also, they have crippling strikes and a headhunter, so they do a shit ton of damage, which is, yeah, tends to be really, really bad. And these guys, they are nasty versus Battleforge as well, but they don't have fearsome, and generally speaking, Battleforge bros can tank a couple of hits before they start bleeding. But these are really, really scary opponents, and especially Nimble bros are just getting shredded by the bleeding from the cleaver. So Nimble is horrible versus these guys, especially because they always jump isolated targets and they always jump the Nimble backliners. So having Nimble bros against these guys is always pretty sketchy. As soon as they appear in large numbers, it's pretty nasty. Very strong opponents. Can be rooted down or taunted. So if you have taunt or nets, they are quite effective versus them. But Nimble tends to struggle a lot versus them. Okay. Next one, the Lordkeeper from the library. The Lordkeeper does not attack you. Yeah, and he has the bunch of... I don't go into this too much. This bunch of abilities from the library. You just have to kill him, right? He doesn't do damage, but his friends do damage. He can summon Screaming Skulls, and these Screaming Skulls do 20 to 40 damage to the body with 75% armor efficiency and 30% armor pen, ignoring Nimble. So again, Nimble is terrible against these, because when they explode, god damn it, they do so much damage to Nimble because it's not getting reduced by Nimble. But they have negative armor efficiency. It's below 100%, so Battleforge is really, really nice versus them. So again, in Sunken Library, Battleforge tends to be superior. Also, you fight a bunch of Honor Guards and Sunken Explorers and whatnot, which also have fearsome. And then we have the Lordkeeper's Apparition, which is kind of like the Ghost, with also the Lightning Storm ability. Wither, he can raise undead. Gives you negative fatigue and damage and all that stuff. Nasty. Last one, we have the Conqueror. He has a two-handed cleaver. Is just an absolute beast. Can be stunned and netted down. So see, these are kind of the counters if you can stun him or net him down. Pretty nice. Has really high defense, really high output. This guy will slaughter Nimble with the cleaver, but he's also like, this is one of these rare cases where even Battleforge struggles. He has crippling strikes, executioner, fast adaptation, fearsome, all the stuff. This guy eats Nimble bros, and even against Battleforge bros, he's still strong. But Nimble tends to be worse again because of the two-handed cleaver and the bleeding stacks. Yeah, and this is Ancient Undead. So overall, I would say Nimble is pretty bad versus Ancient Undead compared to Battleforge because of the Fearsome, because of the Cleavers, and the pikes can have piercing damage, and they have swords and stuff. Like you can catch yourself stuff like Card Artery. Like it's relatively easy to get bleeding stacks from this faction, which is bad versus which is pretty good versus Nimble. Also Fearsome pretty good versus Nimble. These things, they tend to, like the special attacks in the legendary locations, even ignore Nimble. And the Necrosavants and the Conqueror will just eat Nimble bros alive. So also these guys have super low initiative. So they're all very, very slow, except for Necrosavants and the Conqueror maybe. So the fact that like you don't get the benefit from going faster because they're already super, super slow means that even if your full Battleforge team was like super low initiative can go back and then like they just charge you and you have 2 full turns of bashing them before they attack you. So you don't even have a downside of being slow because these guys are even slower. So being fast versus these opponents doesn't do much because they're super slow. Overwhelm can therefore probably be applied. In general, I think just having big two-handed weapons or duelist weapons that smash them fast is the best way to beat them. Try to control Necrosavants. The Lawkeeper can be netted down, so you can net down the Conqueror and Ancient Priests, and they have a rough time. I think these guys, they can't free themselves, at least the Lawkeeper can't. I'm not sure about Ancient Priest. So trying to control these, and in general, yeah, Nimble is terrible versus Ancient Undead. But versus Forge, they tend to struggle. Like they don't have too much damage output, and most of them are slow. So Battleforge kind of counters these faction more or less entirely. Yeah. Again, these big Ancient Undead camps are my favorite late game camps because they have high chance of a famed item most of the time, and the risk going in there if no Necrosavants are there is just minimal. Like a full Forge team, even a Nimble team, right? If you have a lot of damage output, you just smash them before they can hit your back. Just be very mindful that you have a bannerman always ready and that you have bandages to cure the bleeding attacks, right? And that your bannerman is always in range and you can rally and possibly rotate bros who start fleeing or breaking when they get fearsomed. Or if they started bleeding, you can rotate them out and then give them a bandage so they don't die. So you can deploy Nimble versus them, just have to be very mindful of the capabilities. Most of these guys can really hurt Nimble bros and are very bad versus Forge bros overall. So definitely the winner in this matchup is Battleforge by a huge margin. Alright guys, I think this is it. I hope this was helpful. Maybe if you're a new player, you didn't know. And yeah, guys, if you like this, please like, comment, and subscribe. I am interested what you have to say about this topic, and I will see you in the next video, guys. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.